Welcome to episode 9 of the Unity podcast. My name is Kelly. This is my friend Jane, and we are super excited to have with us today the pretty gay knitter, designer, and founding editor of Knit Now magazine, Kate Heppell.
Hello,
me.
Kate. Hello, Kelly.
How are you today?
I am not too bad at all. Yeah.
Good.
Got my knitting. All is well in the world.
It is to bring some calm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just at the point in this jumper where it's just straight stocking stitch all the way down, so I don't even have to look at it. It's great.
Nice.
So it just happens now.
The perfect project. So, founding editor at Knit Now. How long have you been there?
12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's 2011 that we started. And I came into it knowing pretty much nothing about magazines. I thought I knew about knitting. Turns out I didn't know much about knitting either. But yeah, it's been a good 12 years. It's been fun.
So, in your time with Practical, you've been involved in lots of projects. I'm thinking of Craft World and the Crochet Society, and I know you've had quite a few hands in Crochet Now.
Yeah.
So your day to day, what does being a knitting magazine editor or a craft editor involve?
As an editor, it's just herding cats all day, every day. People think it's they either have the impression that it's your Anna Winter and you're in your ivory tower just directing people and wafting your influence towards things, or at the other end of things, people think you just sit and knit all day. And I am sat here knitting, but it's very, very rare that I get my knitting out, like, other than at lunchtime. The truth is a lot more boring, honestly. It's project management is what it is, being an editor. So you are keeping up to date with your spreadsheets, making sure that projects are coming in from designers on time, that they're getting to photo shoots, that everything is up to scratch, good standards, all of that kind of thing. So you could be doing anything from, the process of a magazine starts about 8 months before it's on sale, where you start thinking about what the cover mount is going to be. So the cover mount is what we call the free gift, because it is mounted on the cover. And that can be supplements, it can be tools, yarn, whatever. So as an editor, you have an influence in what that's going to be. And that's the first thing that happens, because obviously that has to be manufactured and shipped, and that takes a long time. So that's often the first thing. The next stage would be commissioning. So you could be working on mood boards to inspire your designers, picking what you want, trying to find yarn to match the designs, talking to your designers about their ideas, and then making sure that all comes in, goes to the tech editors who check it for accuracy. Then you actually start putting the magazine together, usually about a month before it goes to print. You start on that. So that'll be happening, and all of this happens overlaid on each other. So if you think you start work on an individual magazine 8 months in advance, that means you're always working on at least 8 magazines at a time.
I'd never considered that. It's fairly obvious when you point it out, but that's an awful lot of plates to spin.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And that's not including the ones that have already gone to print that you might want to be promoting as well. So if you include those, it's like 9 or 10.
So in terms of the size of the team that works on the magazine, how many people are usually involved?
In terms of people who are full-time only working on that magazine, one person, full-time if you're lucky. Most editors also do something else. there are a lot of people then who do a little bit on the magazine. So, for example, you've got the designers who lay the magazine out. They usually work on 2 magazines. So you've got sort of 50% of their time to lay it out. You've got the sub-editors who work across all of the magazines, and they are sort of proofreading. So there's 2 of them, but they work across all of the magazines that we do. You'll have maybe a deputy editor who will work across 4 or 5 magazines, doing things like helping you with the post or writing news pages or things like that. And then there'll be sort of a managing person overseeing the editor, and helping out on things like, the strategy and bags and covers and things like that. We also help each other out a lot across the team. So, for example, if someone's off sick or someone's on holiday, then if you're working on, say, Knit Now, you might help out on Crochet Now if it needs it, depending on where all the deadlines fall, things like that. So there's a fair team of individual people.
So sorry.
Speaking of herding cats.
Oh, of all the times, honestly.
That's fine. I'm pretty sure anyone who is engaging with a Yarny podcast understands cats.
Yes, that's true.
That's a lot more involved than I think I'd ever given thought to. Considering the amount of years that I have worked with the magazines, I'm starting to feel a little bit naive. I'm like, I mean, I knew you were busy, folks, but yeah, you have seriously just opened my eyes to the amount of hats that have to be worn by very few people.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So in all of those jobs, what are the best bits?
I was working with designers. I know that obviously I'm sat here with you, who is one of my favourite designers I've ever worked with.
Me, yes,
so
it's me. It's me.
But
don't say
honestly,
it's Kelly. Don't say it's Kelly. I'm naughty.
Designs for us. You're slacking, Kelly.
I know, 2 or 3, I think. I know, proper slacking.
But yeah, honestly, it's working with designers. It's that creativity in the role, because so much of it isn't actually very creative. It's it's time management, it's processes and all that kind of stuff, which isn't very fun. Or putting out fires when something's gone wrong. But working with designers, getting hands-on with yarn, photo shoots are always great. But yeah, it's working with the designers, working with all of the people in the yarn industry that we get to spend time with. So like the yarn companies that we work with, like building those relationships and getting to know them, and just being a professional enabler essentially is my job a lot of the time. But yeah, so over the years I've kind of done less and less of being an editor, really. So I was sort of in the front of the mag editor of Knit Now for about 10 years. At which point I had kind of progressed within the company, and my boss was like, you're spending too much time in the detail. Let's put another editor on this mag and get you doing more sort of high level stuff, which is great in terms of like my career progression and all of that kind of stuff. But I love editing a magazine. There's nothing like it. It's just, it's so good. So we've had a couple of other editors since then. The last couple of months, one of our editors was off for a while, So I kind of have stepped in and been a lot more back in the detail again, which has been so much fun. Honestly, it's the best job in the world when you're enjoying it and it's going well and all that kind of stuff. But like you say, I've had my fingers in a lot of pies over the years, so it's not been just knit now.
You want to tell us a little bit about the Crochet Society? Because that was an interesting project and collaboration.
Yeah, so Crochet Society came about because we were working with Sarah Jane, who is the person behind Bella Coco Crochet. So she's got a massive YouTube channel. The number of people that I've spoken to who say they've learned to crochet from Sarah Jane's videos is absolutely mind-blowing, because she's just this really, really lovely woman who is so unassuming and sweet and kind. She's got 2 gorgeous little daughters now. But when we first started working with her, we ended up talking, and she was like, what I've always wanted to do is, she was before she got into crochet, she was in beauty. So she was a beauty lecturer at a college. So she's always been into her, skincare and beauty and all that kind of thing. And she had one of those beauty subscription boxes. And she was like, oh, yeah, but what if this was crochet? What would that look like? But obviously, as an individual person, you wouldn't even know where to begin to do something like that. And she got to talking with us, particularly to my former boss Ruth, and they're like, let's do it. Let's see, because we've got all of the logistical stuff is already happening for us, right? As a business, we do magazines, we do e-commerce, we do products. We manufacture, and we've got editorial people who know how to make a magazine happen, make patterns happen, inspiration, and we know and love that crochet audience. So it seemed like everything was there, that let's give it a shot, so that's how that started. I got brought in as an editorial head, as someone who knows and understands the audience. I love crocheters. They're just a really good bunch of people. And we worked out what would make people happy, what would make them subscribe and stay subscribed, and took it from there. So that launched 2019, I want to say, because when 2020 happened, we were about a year in, and that was a challenge. But obviously when we were in full lockdown, essential workers only, all of that kind of stuff, we're like, how on earth are we going to produce a crochet box safely and that people will be happy with? But not doing it wasn't an option for us, because we were like, well, now more than ever is when people need this, so we can't just not do this month's box. That was a challenge with that one, but we got through it. We did it, and Crochet Society is still going. We have switched to bi-monthly because basically people's boxes were piling up and they weren't having time to catch up and make the things. If you get a box of yarn every month that's like on top of everything else you're crocheting, you're not going to have time to enjoy it, really. So bi-monthly works better from that side of things. And then Some Bright Spark had the idea to do an advent calendar. So we do that as well every year. So we're in the process of editing all the patterns for the advent calendar for this year. And this year's patterns are amazing. They're incredible. And we're hoping to be able to offer a digital version this year as well. So not just the physical calendar. If you want to just join in with the crochet along, that'll be up. So that's Crochet Society. It's fun. It's beautiful, Crochet Society. I think as much as I love magazines, there is kind of a commercial aspect to them in terms of making them sell on the newsstand, where they have to grab your attention in 2.5 seconds and beat out all of the competition for your attention and to be the magazine that you put in your basket. So you have to shout really loud and all of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't always end up the most sort of calm and pleasing aesthetic experience on the outside. But Crochet Society is it's a different type of product, right? So it doesn't have to do that screaming and shouting on the newsstand job, so it can just be beautiful. So that's fun as well. That's a nice.
I was lucky enough to receive, I think it was the Sparkle box. Can't see the number. It's sitting up there. But it's just so beautiful. I've still not made anything out of it. It's got a little unicorn to make in there, and it was just too pretty to. You just want to keep it all together. That was the problem.
Yeah.
So it still sits there with its markers and its notepad. I think it was a to-do list, and it's all still just in the box. And every now and again, I take it out with that. Oh, I could, maybe. No, it's too pretty. You can tell there's a lot of thought gone into the box.
Yeah,
definitely. When you open it, it feels premium. It doesn't feel like some cover mounts do.
Yes.
I tried to word that very carefully.
Well, in terms of being completely honest, the budget that we have to spend on a Crochet Society box, because it's a more expensive product, right?
Yeah.
So we've got more money to spend, and we want to make sure that money goes as far as possible and feels like you're getting amazing value.
It does.
I think with cover mounts, they're nice to have. And for me, it's always like the nice little extra on top of where the real value in a magazine is in the patterns. So cover mounts to me do the job of, if you've got 2 magazines in your hand, you might just go with the one that's got the cover mount that appeals to you more, right?
Yeah.
And I want them to be useful, and I want them to be appealing to the audience, but they're not the most important thing in the magazine.
Of course. So when it comes to this question, actually would apply to both Knit Now and the Crochet Society.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to putting mood boards together, where does that inspiration come from? Because 10, 12 years as Knit Now editor, was that 13 issues a year? That's a lot of ideas.
And I love your mood boards as well. Your mood boards always inspire, no matter what, always. And I've seen a lot of mood boards that really don't. And yours always do. They always hit it right on the head.
It can come from anywhere, really. It is harder now to think of new mood boards that I've never done before, because, like you say, I've done quite a lot. Some of the ideas do get sort of recycled and reimagined. Like, how many times can you do, summer picnic in different ways? Or like nautical, or how many ways can you do Christmas, right? Sometimes trends will come through in like trend reports. They'll come from, I used to actually, when I had the time, go through all of the runways every year, picking things out, which is time consuming, but it's enjoyable. And you will see themes coming through from runways. It takes a long old time for them to get as far as us, but they'll come. But I think just by being someone who has a lot of creative passion, so I love literature, I love art, music, all of that kind of stuff, you can find an angle and make it work. And it can come from anywhere. Like one of them coming up, which the mood board has been and gone, right? So I can talk about this. Jane submitted an absolutely ridiculous cushion.
Okay.
I say that in the most positive way possible. I saw it and I screamed. It's so cute, right? And it was inspired by an iconic musical artist in a fun way. And I was like, I have to put this in the magazine, but it doesn't really fit with any of the issues that I'm commissioning right now. What if I just took that as the starting point for a mood board and ran with it? What would happen? So
and I
that's
shed
where,
a little
like,
tear when you told me. I was just like,
so I've got like, there's an issue that's kind of like based on like 70s glam rock kind of vibe of sparkles and joy.
Brilliant.
And I mean, I am, you know, I was brought up on Mark Boland. You know what I mean? It's in my very beating heart. And I'm sure that's like positive nostalgia for a lot of our readers as well. Like, so leaning into that a little bit, but then making it wearable. How do you do that? You go, okay, well, let's be inspired by the color palettes, the shapes, the sense of freedom and fun and playfulness. And then you come up with a mood board. And yeah, Pinterest is very good at once you've got a few things on there, Pinterest is very good at suggesting related things that can then take you down a new path. And yeah, the last place is literally Pinterest will have trending topics, trending things like, you know, there was one I did a couple of years ago that was based on kind of Greek myth and things like that. And that came from, it was just a trending topic on Pinterest. And I was like, oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so
the
here, there, and
so
everywhere.
the mood board goes out.
Yeah.
And the proposals come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? What sprinkle of magic dust occurs at that point?
So we've got a little bit of a process to try and make it more of an objective process rather than just my opinion of, because it's very, very difficult. You get so many amazing submissions. Trying to choose between them can be really, really hard. So we've got a process where, you know, all of those people who I said do a little bit on the magazine. So we'll get together the editor, deputy editor, the tech editors, maybe a sub-editor, maybe the manager. So about 5 or so people will all look at every submission and score it 1 to 5 of like, how much do you want to see this in the magazine? So we're looking for things like, is this a new idea that our readers are going to be excited about? Is it something that people are going to enjoy knitting? All of that kind of stuff. So each submission, we usually get about 100 submissions there or thereabouts per season. They all get scored 1 to 5, and then that score gets averaged. And I will start from the top of the list, going down. And obviously we want to keep variety in each issue, obviously. So we want to make sure there's a certain number of garments, accessories, baby knits, homewares, toys, and so on. We always want a pair of socks. We always want an interesting shawl for those creative knitters who love their shawls. So I will go down and item by item, I'll go, okay, right, let's start with, say, garments. pick the garments for each issue, starting with the ones that score the highest. Sometimes that's not necessarily a guarantee that it's going to go in, even if it's something that scores really high. It might be too similar to something else that's in an issue that's in the works already. It might be that we can't quite get it to fit for another reason. You know, we might have had loads and loads of stranded colourwork submissions say, well, you don't want 5 stranded colourwork garments in the same issue. You want each garment to have a different technique. So you might have like loads that scored really, really high, all using the same technique, but you can only pick one of them. So I go through section by section. I do garments, babies, shawls, and so on, making sure that there's a balance of difficulty levels, a balance of yarn weights, techniques, all of that kind of stuff, so that as far as possible that there's something for everyone in every issue. I always go by the rule of thumb that for a magazine to have been worth the money to the reader, they need to have at least 2 patterns that they want to knit. So for every type of reader, I want to make sure that there's 2 patterns that's going to appeal to them. So like I say, so one of the types of knitters that we try to appeal to is the creative knitter. So that's someone who is always wanting to learn new things and stretch their skills. So there'll be maybe a steeked cardigan and a lace shawl, say, that are aimed at that part of the audience. Another part of the audience is what we call the cautious knitter. So she might have been knitting for a really, really long time, but really knows what she likes and sticks to it. So those kinds of knitters, we want to make sure if there's a pattern that they don't have to read a chart to follow it, because those knitters don't really enjoy reading charts. That's fine. We want to make sure it's a yarn that's accessible, because they're less likely to want to have to go online to buy their yarn. So you want to make sure you pick a yarn that they can get in their local yarn shop, things like that. Want to make sure those kinds of knitters also don't really like knitting in the round, so you want it knit flat. Those kinds of things that you've just got a little bit of it's like a logic puzzle. You know those logic puzzles that are like a grid where it's like, Mary likes jam but doesn't go to school on Tuesdays. Those kinds of puzzles. It's like doing one of them, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again,
hopefully that makes some kind of sense. I feel like I've just ranted.
No. Again, it's got my brain going, how did I not give some thought?
I want to know what category I sit in. What sort of knitter are you? We need one of them
designer,
quizzes.
You're creative.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like to learn new things all the time. So yeah.
And that's a challenge as well, is that all designers pretty much are creative knitters. So they're going to be coming up a lot of the time with ideas that they enjoy themselves. So finding patterns for the full range of people, sometimes again you have to rule things out, because there's too much here that's really complicated, or it's using unusual stitches. We need something in here that's like a really good solid
basic
cable pullover or something that's just gonna be an easy knit
and grab their attention with the yarn rather than the stitches.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very interesting. Got one more.
I do, but that feels like fishing, as I've realised that's in my part of the interview. The question was, do you have a favourite or most memorable design that you've commissioned? And you've just been so kind about one of my designs, I thought this is going to sound like nothing but fishing. So, and if you don't pick me, I'll be sad. So
every single one of Jane's designs is absolutely genius.
Thank you.
Of yours specifically, the one that comes straight to mind is you did like a little farmhouse on a jumper with tiny little finger puppet farm animals that was just absolutely delightful. Overall, I'm not going to pick individual designs, but I'm going to pick individual issues. I've got 2 issues that are really, really close to my heart that I loved working on, and where I think the collections in those issues will hold up for the rest of time. There's issue 34, which was arts and crafts themed. So it was all inspired by the arts and crafts movement. We had like the most beautiful stranded colourwork vest by Claire Neicho that was inspired by the William Morris Chrysanthemum pattern. It's absolutely stunning. Karie Westermann did us an amazing shawl, like the whole thing. We shot it at Gorton Monastery, which was designed and built by the Pugin family, who did the House of Commons. Like, it's just the most beautiful collection ever. And I've just realised that the common factor in these 2 issues is Karie Westermann, because the other one is issue, I can't remember what number it is, but she did features in both of them, she did patterns in both of them. I think potentially they were just both themes that appealed to both of our little sensibilities. So the second one, the theme was North Sea knits, and it was all about patterns inspired by the knitting traditions around the North Sea. So Scandinavian traditions, Scottish traditions, all of that. This issue absolutely broke all of the rules I've just told you about not having too much of the same thing, because there was a lot of stranded colourwork in that issue. But for me personally, it just absolutely was beautiful. And we shot it at a ruined abbey near us with one of my favourite models of all time, Lindsay, who was a curve model. She looked absolutely gorgeous in all of these patterns. It was a shoot with our old photographer, Dan, who are just, both of those shoots, I think, are just so full of memories of doing it for me, that those issues will just live in my head rent-free for the rest of the time.
You can hear the pride when you talk about them. You really
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
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 I need to look them up now.
Pretty much anything by Karie Westermann will grab the attention.
Yeah. So she did the cover garment in that second issue, and it's beautiful, gorgeous. Yeah, Karie's a superstar. There's absolutely no hiding the fact that I have favourites, and Karie is one of them.
She's a good egg. She's
just one of my favourite humans in the whole universe. You are also one of them.
She's good fun to chat with. She's a
very good egg.
So Knit Now have always been really forward thinking when it comes to inclusivity, and as plus size people, we've always been grateful that like patterns featured in Knit Now fit us.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Craft Yarn Council standard sizing, the chart stops at 5XL, doesn't it? Which is about 62 inch chest,
about 60
I think.
inch, yeah.
So can you recommend any comprehensive resources for designers that are looking to expand their sizing range? Do you know of any more?
So I've always personally in my own designs used Isolde's charts. I think they're great. There is a book that is coming out. It is the Knitting Pattern Writing Handbook by Christina McGrath and Sarah Woolworth of Tech Tip Talk. I got a review copy. It's an amazing book, and the size charts in it are fantastic. And not only are you getting the size charts, there's also loads of information about how to use them.
Did you say
brilliant.
That was Tech Tip Talk?
Tech Tip Talk.
Yeah,
Yes, I believe they've also published them online.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
recently watching a couple of their YouTube interviews with Victoria Marchant. So I wonder if she's had any involvement with this.
I think she is in the acknowledgements. Jolie Kelly is also in the acknowledgements. Yeah, all of the people in the acknowledgements, I was like, yes, these are all excellent people to have talked to about this. So yeah, that is hot off the press. I don't know if it's even off the press yet. It might be on its way to the press.
I look forward to taking a look at that. That sounds like it could be what we've been waiting for.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Even goes into things like, my own like personal annoyances are things like garments where someone's gone absolutely bonkers with grading the wrist right up. And I'm like, lads, folks, people, friends, how big do you think people's wrists get?
Yeah.
Like, it's so big that it just falls entirely off your hand. And like, the thing is, like you're saying, it's like, when I started on Knit Now, the first year we were accessories only, right? No garments. Which was a decision that was made before I even started on the mag. They were like, this is going to be our point of difference. We're going to not do garments. So I was like, okay, I will try that, see how it works. And a year in, we were like, oh, we need to start doing garments. This is daft. And I was like, I'm not going to publish garments in this magazine. That's my magazine that I wouldn't be able to wear. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to publish garments that all my friends also wouldn't be able to wear. So when we first started garments, what I went for at the time was asking for them to be graded up to a UK size 26, which is a 3X, because the feeling from the people I spoke to at the time was that folks' skill level wasn't always there to grade up beyond that. That's changed. Anyone now who is a serious garment designer has taught themselves, or has taken classes or whatever. I mean, there's not a lot of classes out there really. Even in, I think, knitwear design world is streets ahead of fashion. Fashion colleges only just started teaching people to grade properly and in sizes above like a 44-inch bust. They used to only teach you to grade up to a 44-inch bust.
Crazy.
Yeah. And as a garment designer myself, I'm like, actually, it's not that difficult. Like, it's not simple. Obviously, you need to take it seriously. But if you do take it seriously, it's entirely achievable to be able to grade for a decent size range. So why not? There's no reason not to. So
no, there's not.
A couple of years later, I asked all of my regular designers at the time, would this be a problem for you? And they were like, no, that's what we do for our self-published design. So we'll do it for you. Yeah, we've been using the CYC standards because that's an easily accessible standard that all of our designers can get their hands on. But yeah, having something better is only going to be for the good, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So it is clear that representation matters at Knit Now. And we've had chats with industry people who say that they find it difficult to access BIPOC and disabled models. So how has Knit Now achieved this?
I would say we've come a long way. We've definitely got more to come, more further to go. But in terms of finding models with a diverse range of skin tones and hair and all that is much, much easier than it used to be. Honestly, when I first started, all of the agencies we worked with would send us selects for a shoot, and selects is like the models that were available for the date that we needed the shoot to be. Every single model would be white for years. we did start asking, and we would occasionally get one or two that weren't, right? But this isn't, so industry-wide, that has massively changed. So in terms of ethnic diversity, anyone who is saying that it is hard to find diverse models, they're not looking hard enough. Any model agency worth their salt would not send you an all white casting list anymore. They wouldn't. I've not experienced that in the past 6 years, right? Going outside of that, in terms of body size, that's also changed and massively in the past few years. I have always wanted to use models with diverse body types. It has been very, very difficult up until recently to find models who aren't a size 10. Even finding a size 10 model was a struggle back in the day.
Yeah.
So that much easier. What you will find as these changes have happened in the industry, models of types that weren't booked in the past will have less experience, right? So if you've got a shoot where you know you've got to get through loads and loads of shots, some people booking those shoots won't take a punt on someone new. You have to. If you're expanding your pool of models, you have to be willing to hire models with less experience, because society, right? because we live in a society, these models have had less experience, and modeling is a skill. It's not just about being pretty. Actually, some of the prettiest people I know are terrible models.
I love that. Modeling is a skill. Kate's like that. I've got it. I totally got this.
I am excellent at it. No.
You are a babe in front of the camera. You can't hide that.
I am photogenic, I will admit, but all that means is I look better on camera than I do in real life.
Untrue.
That's not true.
I've been around professional models for 12 years. I've kind of picked up, like, you know, how you move and all that kind of stuff. You just pick it up by osmosis. But yeah, so in terms of ethnic diversity and body type, we are on a good road, right? On to disability. First off, so many disabilities are invisible. Yep. So we have used models with disabilities where you wouldn't see that in a picture. And also, it's none of the audience's business what that model has had to deal with to get to the shoot that day, right? But as a visual medium, we should and could be doing better in showing models with visible disabilities. It's something we've asked about from model agencies, and I think it's a process that we hopefully will get there with. I know other folks have done a further down that road than us. I will fully admit, like, we need to do better on that. Full props to Simply Knitting a couple of months ago. They had a model on their cover who's a wheelchair user, and even though they're technically on paper, they're my competition, whatever, I looked at that and I was like, oh my God, yes, fantastic. This is exactly what we need. And that kind of laid down a challenge almost to us. Like, that issue, I'm not going to lie, that issue sold really well. So anyone who says that showing models with disabilities could be a commercially dodgy decision, absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I have the sales figures. We get our competitors' sales figures. It sold really well.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the demographic that you're selling to. and
Yeah.
you need to, well, I'm talking to the converted here, you need to be more representing those people. They need to see themselves. And
Yeah.
I do wonder whether you're saying about the model agencies having, you know, not enough plus size models, not enough with visible disabilities and ethnic minorities. Sorry, I've got a banging headache. Being represented. Is this perhaps a confidence issue where society has gone, you are not white, you are not skinny, therefore why would you be working in the modelling industry, that enough people don't apply to the agencies because society has taught them that's not what we're looking for? It's a kind of chicken and egg, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how the agencies work these days, but I know I've seen quite a few people who have they've built themselves up a following on Instagram, and a model agency's reached out to them. So it's not necessarily about them applying, I don't think.
More them being approached, maybe. So
yeah. So yeah, we're reliant on those agencies. I wish we weren't. I wish we had the time to go out and find our own models and arrange that and sort out their insurance and sort out all of that kind of stuff. But as we've discussed, we're a very, very small team. And there are some things that we just have to go, that is not something that we're physically capable of doing, right? So we need to rely on those agencies.
And
we can push those agents, and they have been really responsive. It's just, it takes time.
I mean, as a designer, having had my work featured in the magazine, it's mostly children's garments that I design for you. And I have been my heart has been warmed by the choice of models. I've been really fortunate.
And that's the thing, is like, I want people to look at the magazine and see themselves and their families, right? And I want to see myself. So like, I am a woman of colour. I do not want to put out an all-white magazine. It absolutely was gutting to me in the days when we were doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I had people turn around to me, like, I said about this being a commercial issue. I had people tell me, we can't put a black woman on the cover. When Vogue put Naomi Campbell on the cover, it didn't sell.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those are very outdated opinions, but they exist in the world. I've heard those opinions from yarn companies who have said, no, we have our girl, and our girl is a size 8, blonde, white, whatever, right? So those are opinions that I have come across in the industry, but they're changing, and there's really good people in the industry actively working to change them that I've had conversations with behind closed doors, and we have gone, right, we're facing the same issues here. How can we work together to tackle that? But it needs active work. You can't just sit back and hope that it happens by itself. You need to be actively working and engaging. And when you're in a busy job, like we are, like the yarn companies are, sometimes you just carry on doing it the way you're doing it, because that's how you've always done it, and doing something new takes more energy, right? But we've got a moral obligation to do it.
Yeah.
There's certainly still some organisations that need to move out of their comfort zone when it comes to the way they approach things. I mean, we touched on simply knitting and the use of the model in the wheelchair. And the thought crosses my mind when it comes to designing garments, how we could perhaps approach modifying garments. If some patterns, I appreciate not all patterns this could be applied to, there should be some guidance on those with limb deficiencies. Okay, but this is where you want to make alterations, or thought be given to sleeve length and type for wheelchair users, ease of dressing for mobility issues. They're not often terms that I see coming up in patterns in the magazines, and I wondered what your thoughts were on perhaps making some small changes to accommodate that.
We definitely should. Again, it's one of those things that, like, as soon as someone mentions it, I'm like, oh yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Let's put it on the list. Let's do it, you know? So one of the reasons that we always shoot our garments standing up and sitting down is because not everyone is going to wear them standing up. It's, you know, when you stand up, it's often the easiest way to show all of the detail in a garment, right? But you want to know how, if you're not someone who stands up a lot or ever, you want to know how it's going to look when you sat down. So we always shoot standing up and sitting down. But there's so much more we could do in terms of, you know, features and notes. One of the things we always do is publish a schematic so you can see the construction of the garment. So that's for anyone who wants to make any kind of adaptations to a garment. You can see where the construction lines are, where you can take out length, add length that you need to. We always, again, describe the construction of a garment in simple terms at the beginning of the pattern, so you can make a quick judgment for yourself before you get into it of how is this something that I can easily adapt for whatever my needs are. And that's something that benefits everyone, right? There's literally no reason for any publication to not do both of those things, because it benefits everyone, but it's especially useful to anyone who has particular needs for adaptation, for disability reasons, for health reasons.
We give a lot of thought to designing for babies and toddlers. You know, will it fit over the head?
Yeah.
Are we going to have to wrestle? Do we need to make some modification to the opening at the neck, long strands in colour work for fingers, all of those sorts of things? But then when it comes to designing for adults, we seem to quite happily kind of exclude those little details.
Yeah. We need to do better. Absolutely.
It would be nice to see more movement in that direction, for sure.
Yeah, I am going to put that into our next planning meeting, see what we can do, because I guarantee a lot of people think about those things and they'll go, oh my God, that's a big job. There's loads that we need to do. Whereas actually, usually when you've come to actually sit down and look at it, you can do relatively small things that make a big difference.
Yes, because not every knitter has the skills in their wheelhouse to make those adaptations for themselves. I mean, I saw a fantastic article by Carmen of New Leaf Designs. Up on her blog, she has a post called Designing for Wheelchair Users. So if there's any designers out there or knitters who need some help with those adaptations, that's a great starting point if you want to try over there and check that out.
We'll pop that in the description box as well, the link.
Excellent.
So something people might not know about you is that you've got over 110 designs on Ravelry.
I didn't know that about me.
Can you tell us about your first ever design?
I think the first ever design I actually published was probably a beanie that I just improv'd. Oh no, it wasn't a beanie. It was a beret. It was in Aran or chunky yarn. I just did a knit flat because I went through a phase in my life where I was avidly against knitting in the round, just out of stubbornness. Because I was like, everyone else is knitting in the round. I'm going to knit.
You are such an anarchist.
Because I'm cool. Because that's how 22-year-old brains work. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was James Brett Marble Chunky, actually, now I think of it. Which is still available in the exact same colours. It's always been available. If there's one thing you can rely on in life, it's Jimmy Brett Marble Chunky. It's absolutely marvellous. I say this as genuinely as a compliment. It's one of the best acrylic yarns out there. Those colourways are timeless because they've seen us through at least 15 years and without needing to change. And they always knit up really well. Excellent value. You get that big 400-gram ball. What's not to love?
See, we were going to ask what your favourite yarn is, but I think you might just answered it.
It's not my favourite. I don't think I've worked with it in 10 years, but I know that it's there when I need it. I know I can rely on it.
It hides a multitude of sins, doesn't it? It doesn't matter what you do or you mess up, it's hidden in that yarn. It is perfect.
Yeah, and it washes and wears really well. My mum broke her leg once and she wanted a sock to go over her boot. I'm like, this is a job for Jimmy Brett Marble Chunky, if ever I saw one.
I've got your fam, literally.
Yeah. Actual favourite yarns? Shetland 4-ply. You can't make me choose between Jameson's and Jameson Smith. I love them both. King Cole Cotton Soft. I will stand King Cole Cotton Soft until the day that I die. Honestly, there is no cotton yarn like it. It's magical. People who've not tried it are like, really? It's just a cotton yarn? No. It's not just another cotton DK.
No, it's really not.
I think all you need to know about King Cole Cotton Soft, it is the yarn of choice for knitted knockers. Now, we wouldn't be Unity without touching on setting Kelly off with her cackle.
I didn't know that.
It is, yep. It is the yarn they used for their knitted prosthetics. Because it is
the nicest cotton ever. It's so lovely.
It's got bounce.
No.
Cotton yarn doesn't have bounce, but King Cole Cotton Soft, there it is, bouncing away.
Cotton yarn gives me sore fingers, and that one doesn't. It's just so lovely.
Because it's got no give to it, usually, cotton yarn. But King Cole Cotton Soft, it's magic. The number of times that I've commissioned something and I've told the designer, you're having King Cole Cotton Soft, and they're like, I don't think this will work in a cotton. I'm like, you don't know King Cole Cotton Soft. Like, number one, I'm right. I'm the editor. But also, King Cole Cotton Soft is has to be knitted with to be believed. What other favourites? Most of what I knit in a pure wool DK. This that I'm doing now is it's discontinued. It's Yarn Stories. Tell you what the other one is. John Arbon Knit by Numbers. It's nice. It's really, really nice. And it just does everything. It has stitch definition and a little bit of a halo. It's so soft. It's like creamy, buttery soft. Pure wool. Made in the UK. Every single colour imaginable. Actually quite affordable for what it is. Yeah. That's another one. I could probably go on forever.
Was just going to say, in all those favourite yarns, what is your favourite thing to knit?
Stranded colourwork. And hats.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Stranded colourwork, I could have guessed by the yarn choice alone.
Yeah, I mostly don't wear what I knit. I'm terrible. Really, really terrible. I make things and then they just sit in the cupboard. But hats I will actually wear. Because I run wool, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of my previous favourite yarns, Sublime Evie, may she rest in peace, was a favourite because it was a cotton chainette. It was like it was really, really lightweight. So it was an Aran weight, but I could knit something in it and actually wear it. I've got 3 garments knit in Sublime Evie that I wear. 2 of those are completely basic, like just a plain stocking stitch vest, stocking stitch pullover, and just a plain stocking stitch t-shirt.
So every week we have a viewer question that we like to answer, and this one came in from Kat, and we thought we know the perfect person to answer this question. She said, I've always boycotted knitting magazines and designers that use copywritten / licensed content. because I feel if we support it, we're supporting getting our own intellectual property stolen. But I'm wondering whether these publications actually apply for licensing or whether it just doesn't apply. I've never seen the legal wording like you do on licensed fabric for personal use, not for selling, etc. How does all of this work in terms of one pattern which she mentions in particular was my Paddington jumper that I did for you guys. I think this is what sparked her question.
Okay, so first off, yes, we are paying for the licenses. It's not copyright theft. We are doing it officially. It's proper. It's proper. We're jumping through a heck of a lot of hoops. It's genuine. This is why it always says official on it, and it has the TM and it has all of the So the first license that we ever worked with was Sooty. That came about just because of someone met someone at a function and was like, hey, Sooty knitting patterns, what about it? But then we started going more down the route of actively looking for licenses. So Paddington actually was one that I arranged years and years back. I remember being in a pub in North London, taking a phone call from the license holder and being absolutely terrified that I was going to say something wrong or do something wrong. And I just really, really wanted the Paddington license. And so I took a call about it when I was not at work. It's like, what if they can hear that I'm in a pub? But yeah, so the way it works is that we reach out to, there's usually a licensing agency that holds multiple licenses on behalf of the copyright holders. Some brands, you go direct to them. So, for example, like Bagpuss and Clangers, it goes direct into the Firmin family. The Firmin family still approve all of the projects, stuff like that. So we say, hey, we exist and we want to do patterns. And they go, yeah, cool. Here's how much it's going to cost you. So we agree to that. We sign the contract. And as part of that contract, we have several stages of approval for every project that we do. So unlike most patterns in the mags, which only need to please me, essentially, before they can get printed, with licensed patterns, so with the Paddington one, we would do a proposal, which is like a sketch, drawing out the chart, things like that, and the yarn colours that we want to use, because we need to use the right yarn colours for the brand. We send that off to the licensor for approval. On comments, they might say, we like this, but change this shade of yarn, or this line isn't quite right. And if we need to change anything, we feed that back to the designer. We try and get all of the amends done at that stage, because if anything needs changing later on, then the designer has done a whole lot of knitting that they're going to have to redo. So we try and make sure we get as much as possible, the approval stage, any amends happen in there. And then once that's all good, give the designer the go-ahead, they make the sample. Again, we take a photo of that sample, who's like, okay, here's the finished thing. It should look the same as they agreed that it would look in the proposal, but we send it off to the licensor again, just for comments. And it might be just, sometimes it's a case of like, oh, one stitch here or there can this be brought in or taken out? We just do a little bit of duplicate stitch to tweak a design, maybe sometimes. Or if it's a toy, sometimes it's just a case of like, it needs a little bit more stuffing in his arms because they're looking too skinny or whatever, things like that. Then it goes into like the normal pattern process where we get it tech edited, photographed, laid out. And once again at that stage, it goes out to the license for approval. So they get approval of the layout, of all the words that we're using on the page, how we're describing it. They always want a copyright notice on that page. It's usually quite small. It's usually just like a couple of lines at the bottom of the page. So they approve it at that stage. They also, if we are mentioning the license at all on the packaging, they get approval of that. So all the way along the process, the licensor they know it's happening, they're getting paid for it, they get approvals, all of that. So I promise it's legit. It's a whole lot of extra work. I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't legit.
I can tell you from the designer's point of view, waiting for those approvals to come in, particularly after you've sent the sample in, is your heart is in your mouth. Because, the excitement of being asked to do it, particularly the Paddington, because I grew up with Paddington and that is so close to my heart. I loved every minute of that. And getting to work with the original sketch art as well on that design. But not being able to use the red and blue in it, I mean, was a challenge. But given that, waiting for the approval to come back on that one particularly was please let it be okay. Let it be okay.
Came out like, so
and if they need to change it, I don't know how I could change it. But I am so incredibly proud of that. No doubt we'll find a picture to pop in so you can see along with everything else we've talked about today.
But I feel you on the stress, because I've done licensed patterns myself, and you just sat there going, please like it, please like it, please like it, please like it. I've just done a Chicken Run cushion, so I've got Babs from Chicken Run with her knitting on a cushion, and that was stressful because not only did it have to go through Aardman, who are lovely to work with, by the way, it also had to go through Netflix, which is a new thing for me because the new Chicken Run movie is exclusive to Netflix, I believe. So Netflix also had to approve everything.
Oh, wow.
So that was like a new set of people who had to approve everything. And I was like, I don't know them. I don't know what they want. But yeah, Aardman have always been so lovely. At the point where like we did some Wallace and Gromit crochet hooks and Wallace and Gromit crochet tools on Crochet Now years ago, and we sent off the samples for approval to Aardman, and they came back with a yes, and not just a yes, but it's like yes, and can we have some extras because Nick Park's mum wants one? I'm like, Nick Park's mum can have as many of whatever she wants as she needs. Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
It's like, that's the thing. It's like, the reason knitting is always so good in all of those Aardman animations is because Nick Park's mum is a knitter, so he grew up with it, so he knows what it's supposed to look like. And like that realization for me was just like,
brilliant.
I just love all of those movies even more than I did before.
Gromit is not sat there trying to knit with a crochet hook.
Exactly. Exactly.
Gromit knows what he's doing.
So we do have 5 quick-fire questions to ask you that we just want the answer straight off the top of your head. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
I am ready. Yes.
So, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Metal
Iced.
or wood? Oh, iced.
Wood.
Cats or dogs?
Cats. Both, but cats.
Knit or crochet?
Knit.
And crisps or chocolate?
Ooh, now. My entire life, it would have been chocolate straight away. But the last month, I've lost my sweet tooth.
Oh.
It's the greatest tragedy of my life.
I'd be devastated.
I'm eating chocolate going, I'd rather be eating crisps. It's awful. I hate it.
Oh. So crisps.
I'm hoping it's temporary. Yeah, at the moment, crisps.
That is a shocker.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the revelation of the entire episode, that, isn't it?
I know.
It's absolutely unacceptable. I don't know who I am anymore.
Oh,
Yeah,
would
I
hate
think that would destroy me.
yeah. Oh, I like my
Well,
sweet tooth.
we were really sad to hear that you're going to be leaving Practical Publishing. Yeah. But you're heading off on a new adventure, something that's really close to your heart, and I couldn't be happier. You're going to be going to work every day doing something that you know you can make a difference in. Tell us where you're heading off to.
So I'm going to be working in marketing at an LGBT youth charity. So, yes, like you say, very close to my heart. I'm a big old gay. But,
Are you?
But also, you know, so many of my friends are trans, and I know how awful of a time that they're having it in the media right now, that particularly young people growing up questioning their gender, it's not a happy environment to be doing that in. So being able to work for an organization that's trying to make a difference in that, that's where my heart goes to. So yeah,
amazing.
It's been an amazing 12 years here, and I'm sure people can tell from the way that I've talked about the mags. I love these magazines. I adore them. But it's time to move on, I think. And new job will hopefully still allow me time to do some woolly things on the side, as it were. So I've reactivated my Ravelry store. I'm going to be going through, having a fresh look at my designs, seeing what I can update, maybe publishing some new ones, self-publishing some of the patterns that have been either in the magazines or in Crochet Society, because that's where the majority of my designing the last 8 years, I've not really self-published at all. I've just designed for the magazines, and I've not had the time to then self-publish afterwards. So yeah, hopefully get a bit more time to do some of that. And you'll never take me away from knitting. It's just not going to happen. I am a knitter in my bones, so
we'll still be able to catch up with you at the yarn festivals and see all your new creations online.
Yeah,
so we'll still get our Kate fix.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram. I'm trying TikTok.
Oh, so are we.
Yes, it is what the young people do, I hear.
Actually, so
I have ticked several talks.
We may or may not have had to ask a teenager for some help. We'll just leave that there.
Unfortunately, I don't have access to a teenager, so I'll have to work it out myself, and it's extremely confusing.
It is.
Oh, it has been so lovely to get to spend time with you today.
Yeah, and you.
And it'd be lovely to have you back on and showcasing some of your designs in the not too distant future. And keep in touch.
Yeah, and you.
So it's a great time to say thank you very much for watching today. We hope you've enjoyed it and you'll give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. You'll find all the links and info in the show notes. Please go off and check some of those out. There's some great resources there. You can learn a little bit more. Until next time, bye-bye.